Okay, so let's talk about low inflammation food as therapy. So low inflammation food typically means plant-based, free of typically gluten or dairy or soy, and it's simplified so it's not overcooked and things like that. So it would be things like this, dates, dried fruits, seeds, vegetables, fruits, grains, those kinds of things. And then let's talk about some tips and tricks to get the picky eaters or people with sensory issues to eat these kinds of low inflammation foods. The first one is you get them involved and you make it simple, right? So making the energy bars, the energy balls with them is really easy. Just take a whole bunch of dates, put in a Cuisinart like this, add in some dried fruits, add in some seeds, maybe a little bit of seed butter, a little bit of syrup, maple syrup or something like that. You've got yourself an energy ball, right? Real simple. You can coat it with some chocolate if you want to make it more fun, but you're done with that project of making a really nutrient-dense snack in probably 30 minutes. All you need is a Cuisinart like this or a simple smaller version of a blender like that. The second one is to look at bridge foods. So bridge foods were really important for my son, and they were typically around things that are common for kids, like French fries and chicken nuggets, and finding better versions of that. So French fries would be, sweet potato fries. So sweet potatoes got a lot more nutrients than really crappy potatoes deep fried in crappy oil. And so that's a great option of having bridge foods. The third one is the rule of exposure, right? So we all know that it takes 7 to 15 times of exposure of a food item for a kid to like it. And think about it, 7 to 15 times. They're gonna say no, and you're just gonna have to keep having patience and keep trying it. So that one I think really, really works, because after the 15th time, if there's still a no, then you pretty much can scratch that off your list and go to the next one. Okay, let's talk, the next area I want to go into is, will this plant-based low inflammation diet cure my son of autism or cure my daughter of autism? And I say this because a lot of times people talk about something as a cure to something else, and we got to keep in mind that we know a limited amount about what causes autism, and there's all these theories out there. My belief is you've got to do a whole bunch of different things that all add up to something that will move the needle. So technically, I don't believe in a cure. I believe in the body recovering itself and allowing the body to heal. And once the body heals, then a lot of the illnesses go away. So if you want to take that as a cure, then that's fine, but it's really just recovery. Autism is a spectrum disorder, and spectrum means it can be all the way from something where there's no speech coming, or there's a heavy sensory issue, or there are some other quirks, and those are all spectrum things. And the way things will sort of resolve itself over time is some of these will become less and some may get more accentuated. And I think that's just the way the dice rolls, essentially. And I think the more you can focus on these therapies and get enjoyment out of these therapies, the more you're going to get out of it. So for example, one of the therapies that was really difficult for us to figure out what was impacting or not was social. It was basically behavior related stuff. So early on, because my son didn't have speech, and because he didn't have eye contact, being socially active in groups was very difficult. So we enrolled in something called Social Butterflies. We go to this class with a whole bunch of other kids on the spectrum who didn't want to sort of talk to each other and get them to connect with each other. And it was a really, really challenging thing. It was ridiculously expensive too. There was never a time through that whole process when we felt that the $100 a week that we paid for an hour session was worth it. But cumulatively over so many months, we found that the eye contact, the behavior and all was getting better. But we also took him out to the park to talk to other kids and other things like that. And so I think you just have to have faith in all these different therapies and really get involved in them. And I think the cumulative effect of doing these different therapies is going to result in something positive. The last thing I want to talk about is to get involved with different organizations. So AutismSpeaks has a lot of great things. Talk About Curing Autism, which is called TACA, has a lot of great things. And then there's a whole bunch of other organizations. So we belong to 5 or 6 organizations, learn from every one of them, and honestly stayed out of all their infighting between different organizations. And I think what you want to do is take the best of each of them for your needs, and that's what's going to help you. So we're going to have, after this video on the blog, we're going to have a list of resources that you can download and use. And these all basically resources that in 4 to 5 years of my experience of working with my son, these were things that we developed, and it saved us hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, because these were things that we were paying a therapist to help us with. So we just want to give that information to you and hope you find that useful. And thanks for listening to me talk about this important topic.